Imagine a wheel spinning at 100 revolutions per second. If you record it with a standard camera, the video shows the wheel spinning backward at a slow, lazy pace. How can an instrument designed to capture reality invent a movement that physically does not exist? This phenomenon is not an optical illusion, but a mathematical flaw in how we discretize continuous reality. When we apply the discrete Fourier transform to real data, this exact same flaw corrupts our analysis. To understand why your frequency spectrum is lying to you, we must examine the mechanics of sampling. Why does a continuous signal break when converted into digital data? A computer cannot store infinite points of a wave, so it extracts snapshots at a specific rate, called the sampling frequency. This conversion from a continuous voltage to a discrete array seems harmless, assuming we capture enough points. But what defines the term enough in signal processing? If we choose an arbitrary sampling rate, we trigger a mathematical distortion that permanently overwrites the original data. To define that threshold, we have to look at the maximum frequency hidden within our signal. Can a low-frequency wave perfectly imitate a high-frequency wave? Mathematically, yes, if they cross at the exact points where we take our samples. If a high-frequency sine wave oscillates several times between two intervals, the computer only registers the intersection points. By connecting those dots, the algorithm reconstructs an entirely different, lower-frequency wave that fits that exact same data matrix. This identity theft between frequencies is aliasing. But predicting exactly which frequencies will act as imposters requires applying a strict rule. How fast must we sample to avoid this mathematical identity theft? Harry Nyquist established that the sampling frequency must be strictly greater than twice the maximum frequency present in the continuous signal. If a signal contains frequencies up to 50 Hz, the system must take more than 100 samples per second to capture the peaks without ambiguity. When we violate this inequality, the Fourier transform does not fail to execute. It calculates a precise but entirely false spectrum. The mechanics of this forgery occur through a process known as frequency folding. What happens to the energy of a frequency when it exceeds the Nyquist limit? It does not disappear into nothingness. It folds back into the valid low-frequency range like a reflection in a mirror. If we sample at 100 Hz, our maximum observable frequency is 50 Hz. A 60 Hz component in the physical signal will reflect across that boundary and register as a 40 Hz component in our output. This overlapping energy permanently contaminates the real 40 Hz bin. To see how irreversible this is, let's evaluate how the FFT algorithm operates. Can the Fast Fourier Transform algorithm detect this contamination? No, the algorithm is blind to the physical origin of the data matrix it receives. The FFT assumes that the discrete sequence represents a perfectly band-limited signal, trusting that no frequencies existed above the limit prior to the sampling process. Because the folding occurs during the analog-to-digital conversion, the resulting matrix already contains the altered values. Once the data reaches the FFT, the true and false frequencies are indistinguishable. To trace the origin of this mathematical constraint, we must go back to the dawn of telecommunications. In 1928, engineers faced a physical bottleneck when transmitting Morse code through AT&T's long-distance telegraph lines. Nyquist, working at Bell Labs, attempted to determine the maximum speed that a specific bandwidth could support without the pulses becoming illegible. He mathematically demonstrated that a channel with bandwidth B could carry a maximum of 2B independent pulses per second. 2 decades later, Nyquist-Shannon generalized this into the sampling theorem, proving the mathematical equivalence between continuous signals and discrete sequences under this limit. This telegraphic problem originated the law that governs modern digital audio and video. If the theorem is so absolute, why do modern datasets still suffer from aliasing? The problem lies in the assumption that real-world signals have a strict maximum frequency. In physical reality, sensors pick up broadband thermal noise, electrical interference, and high-frequency transients that exceed our desired measurement range. If we sample a vibration at 1000 Hz, but a 5000 Hz electrical hum infiltrates the sensor, that hum will reflect directly into our target spectrum. Relying solely on the sampling rate is insufficient. We must intervene before discretization. How do we eliminate frequencies we haven't even measured yet? The standard solution in signal processing is the implementation of an analog anti-aliasing filter before the digital converter. This is a physical low-pass filter made up of hardware components like resistors and capacitors, which attenuates any energy above the Nyquist limit. By physically blocking high frequencies from reaching the sampler, we ensure the signal meets the theoretical requirements of the FFT.
However, building a physical filter that cuts off frequencies perfectly is physically impossible, introducing a new design problem. Why do the limitations of physical filters force us to oversample?
An ideal filter would pass all frequencies up to the limit and instantly block everything above it. Real filters have a gradual transition band, meaning they attenuate high frequencies slowly rather than cutting them off sharply. To compensate for this physical limitation, engineers sample at rates significantly higher than the Nyquist minimum, often 4 or 10 times higher. This oversampling creates an empty frequency band that absorbs the filter's slope, protecting the data from residual aliasing. What happens if we process data from a text file without knowing its hardware origin? We operate blind to the analysis. When analyzing financial time series or economic indices, the data is discrete, but the underlying processes contain high-frequency volatility. If daily data is sampled weekly without proper filtering, high-frequency daily fluctuations will fold into the weekly trends, creating false long-term cycles. To validate any Fourier analysis, verifying the pre-processing steps is just as critical as correctly programming the data matrix. Can we fix aliasing mathematically after the data is digitized? Once the continuous signal is sampled and folding occurs, the loss of information is mathematically irreversible. High frequencies and low frequencies have merged into single data points, and no algorithm can separate a sum back into its unknown original components. The only real defense is strict compliance with the Nyquist-Shannon theorem prior to the sampling event. Understanding this irreversibility explains the initial paradox we observed with the camera and the spinning wheel. The camera capturing the wheel is essentially a discrete sampler operating at a fixed frame rate. If the wheel completes almost one full rotation between two consecutive frames, the shortest path connecting the two positions looks like a small movement in the opposite direction. The continuous reality of high-speed forward motion folds into a discrete perception of low-speed backward motion. This visual trick is exactly the same mathematical folding that corrupts a frequency spectrum when we ignore the sampling rate. By controlling the sampling rate and applying analog filters, we guarantee that the sequence sent to the computer is free of imposter frequencies. But delivering clean data to the FFT algorithm is only the first requirement of digital processing. The mathematics behind the discrete Fourier transform impose a structural condition on how that block of data is interpreted once it reaches memory. The algorithm assumes your finite matrix of numbers is not an isolated event, but a pattern that repeats forever. To see how this mathematical assumption warps your results, we must examine boundary conditions in How to Correctly Use Fourier, Part 2, The Hidden Infinite Loop.